is just around the corner. Hey. Ilam Hazard, nothing like. Zog Tehillah Gemara. Vayikumu lufnei Moshe. The Adas Korach stood in front of Moshe. Vanoshim mibnei Yisrael chamishim u'masayim. And the 250 people. They were miyuchodim shebe'eda. They were from the Choshev people of the Eda. Kriyei Moed. Shahayu yoidim la'aver shonim v'lekvoy chadoshim. They had the expertise to determine whether or not we would add a month to the year or what day to make Rosh Chodesh. Anshe Shem, Shoylem Shem b'chol. They were world renowned for their greatness. So we weren't talking about some fly-by-nighters. The Adas Korach were massive Talmid Chachamim, great people. Vayishve Moshe vayipal upon him. Moshe heard and he fell on his face. What caused this to happen? What devastating thing did he hear? Ma Shmuel Shama, Amr Ab Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Amr Ab Yonason, Shechashtu Me'eshish. They were choshid Moshe Rabbeinu for violating their wives. Shenamar v'yikanu l'Moshe b'machana. Amr Shmuel, you know what that means? Amr Ab Shmuel bar Yitzchok, Malamed Shekol Echad ve'echad Kinei Es Ishtoi Moshe. Everyone told their wives, Alt history and Pliny, don't find yourself secluded with Moshe Rabbeinu. As it says here, Kinu Lishtoi, Alt history in Moshe. Kinu Haine Hasra. Shenamar, how did Moshe react to that? When Moshe Yikach es oil v'notaloi mechutz lamachane, he moved out of the machane. As Rashi says, Yotza mechutz lamachane shlo yichashtu oit. If he's not there, they can't be choshid him. Vayakam Moshe vayelech al Dosan v'aviram. He went to Dosan v'aviram. That's very much beneath the dignity of Moshe Rabbeinu. Amar shlokish mikanch ein machzikim b'machloikis. You got to do whatever it takes, even if it's violating the respect you need to have. But when it comes to machloikis, as Rashi says, mikanch ein machzikim b'machloikis shemochel al kavoidoi v'hu atzmoi halach levatal machloikis. He didn't send a shliach. He by himself went to meet Dosan and Aviram. The Amar Rav kol machzikim b'machloikis over b'lav. He's over b'lav. Shenemer v'lo yeh kekorach v'cha adosai. Rabbi Ashi Amar royal litztareah. He deserves to get taras. Ksivacha b'yad Moshe, u'ksivasim v'yomer Hashem Eloi, oid have noyachcha b'chekecha. When the Kadosh Baruch Hu was sending Moshe to originally meet with Paroi, he got taras. So when it says Yodoi, it's referencing taras. So b'yad Moshe is referencing taras. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yosy, kol achoylek al malchus beis David. Anybody who argues on Malchus Beis David, Royal Lakisha Nochash. He is someone deserving of getting a bite from a poisonous snake. Which is referring to Adoniyo when he wanted to take over the Malchus of his father. He made himself a little bit of a rally, and it says that he did this by the Even Azechelas. Now, Taich of the Even Azechelas, according to the Metzudas, is a stone that people used to show off their strength. They would lift up to show off how strong they were. But the Lashon Zoichel is used, which is referring to poisonous serpents. So we see that since he was being choylek on Malchus Beis David, he wanted to fight the Malchus Beis David and take over. He was royal to have been bitten by a snake. Amr Rav Chisda, kol choylek al Rabbi. If someone argues on his Rebbe, Rashi says, choylek al yeshivasai. I'm assuming that means dispute his position. What does the article say? His Torah? So what does it mean al yeshivasai? Rashi says choylek al yeshivasai. He challenges his Torah or he challenges his position? His Torah. So I'm not sure then how he learns, how the art scroll teaches Rashi. Because Rashi is al yeshivasa. I'm not sure what yeshivasa means. I don't know the answer. I'm sorry? Uh-huh. So what does it mean he argues on the Kabbah? He argues on something that was taught there, or he argues? Okay. Zog to Gemara. it's kalachalak al Rabbi kalachalak al Shechina. Shenemar ba'atzoisem al Hashem. Let's look at the notion of the pasuk that's quoted. It's Yud Beis over here. Hema. Okay, I can't see it. Yud Gimel, Yud Beis here. Uvenei Eliyav Nemuel v'dasam aviram hu dasam aviram kriya eda asher hitzu al Moshe v'al Aharon b'adaskorech ba'atzoisem al Hashem. So you see them rebelling and fighting with Moshe and Aaron was like they fought with Hashem. Amar B'chama B'Rab Chanina kol oisem meriva im rabbi. Someone makes a fight with his rabbi. Kol oisem shchina shneimar hema me meriva asher rovu b'nei Yisrael al Hashem. Amar Chanina bar Papa kol Misraim al Rabbi. Someone who is Misraim al Rabbi. Again, he argues with his rabbi. How does the actual text Misraim? Complains? Someone who complains against his rabbi. Kilu Misraim al Shchina shneimar lo yelenus l'nasechem k'al Hashem. This is in Parshas Hamon. You're not complaining to me, Moshe Rabbeinu said. You're really complaining to Hashem. Amar B'vo. Hello Mahaher Hachar Rabbi. And the Mefarshim tells him Mahaher doesn't mean just thinking. It means B'dibur. He speaks out, he expresses, he articulates how he's thinking bad against his Rebbe. Kilu Mahaher Achar Shchina Shneimar V'yidaber Ha'om Be'elakim U'V'Moshe. It says V'yidaber, right? Be'elakim U'V'Moshe, they were speaking ill of Alevish and Moshe when they were speaking against Moshe. So here it means you're articulating. Just thinking is not what this means. Oisher Sharmor L'Balav L'Rasai. Wealth that's protected to its owner, which will hurt him. Wealth that's bad for the person. Amr Shlakish. So Oisher Shal Korach. This is the wealth of Korach. He had a lot of wealth, but what did it do for him? It gave him gall, gave him nerve that ended up drawing him down. Veiskol Yakum Asher Beragleim. What does that mean? Omar Belazar Zeh Mamoyne Shal Adam Shemamid Al Raglav. Why is money? Why are possessions referred to as Yakum? Because some of the money adds to his stature. It gives him prestige. Vamar Belevi Masui Gimel. Listen to this. Just imagine what we're saying over here. Masui Gimel Meyosh Predesh Levanos. There was 300 donkey loads. So that's like 300 truckloads. There were 300 truckloads. Hayu Maftechos Shal Beis Genozov Shal Korach. He needed 300 trucks just to carry the keys to the multiple warehouses and vaults that he had. I'm sorry? Why didn't he have an e-lock, an electronic lock? Why didn't he have a master key? But he could have used an electronic lock, right? I guess he didn't have crypto. Because if he had crypto, he didn't need to have so many warehouses. They were all leather keys. In other words, they were light keys. So they were light. So you could imagine how many of those keys could be held by these donkeys. The kildi, the gilda, and the locks were also made of leather, which means everything was much lighter. Rashi brings a second shot. The gilda l'tzorch sakim v'martzufim v'kisun shol. It means that he had many sacks that were made out of leather. Omer Rab Chama Rab Chanina. Gimel matmoini is hitman Yosef b'Mitzrayim. Yosef hoarded a lot of the money in Mitzrayim into three categories. One category of money was niskalso l'korach. Korach got it, which went deep into the earth. V'yachas niskalka l'tanunis, which went to the Roman emperor. V'yachas genuzo l'tzadikim nosad lavai. And the Mefarshim explained that what were these three categories? Yosef was selling product to people from all over the world because of the hunger. Those oivdei avodah zarah who paid with avodah zarah money, that went to Korach and got buried. The money that people bought that was stolen money that they earned in a non-honest fashion, that was given to Rome. But the money that was earned fair and square in a kosher oifen by people, that money that Yosef took in, that money is going to be Gnuza Lavai. What I don't understand is, I thought Yosef was doing this for the Malchus of Pari. He didn't keep this personally, unless he got some type of commission. Like, what right did he have to keep it? Unless it means it was taka communal money. But the three warehouses that he had made its way eventually into different people. It was money that he separated based on. Now, how would he possibly have known which person gave him money that was avodah zarah? Which one gave money?
Because money is money.
So unless he, well, could be he was like Batzalel.
He knew who was giving it to him. This person's a guy.
How could he know so many people? I mean, people from all over the world. So either Pshat is he was like Batzalel, he's able to look at money and know where it came from. That's number one. Or number two, it could be he just made 3 warehouses, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu made it that it should work out that way.
Sure.
V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, Korach loy mina balum v'loy mina srufin. He was not from the people who got swallowed in the ground. We always say Korach got swallowed into the ground. He was never swallowed into the ground, and he never got burnt. Rather, he died by Magefa. And the Mepharshim tell us Hashem made it b'dafka like that. You know what we had recently? Nasrallah got blown up by Israel with bunker buster bombs, and most people had that feeling where he didn't deserve to die so quickly and so easily. But it turns out after a couple of days they found his body intact, because when the bunker busters blew up the underground place that they had there, the underground fortress, Nasrallah was in a safe room, and he didn't die. He was not crushed to death. He didn't die in a flash. Rather, he died eventually because of lack of oxygen. He was buried below the rubble. So that's Geshmak. He saw his entire empire crumble in front of his eyes, and then he died a slow and painful death, suffocating. That's a Geshmak thing to hear about Nasrallah.
Well, how did you get this information?
It was on the day they found his body.
Where do you get? I know, what's your source? You get all this.
I don't know, from the regular news sources.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have access to Samsung, which is news. I have, yeah. Shall do this, yeah. Yeah, shall do this.
You don't have access to it?
I don't have all of his private news sources. No, this is openly available news. They found his body. Why? Because Korach also, Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted him to see what happened to his whole empire, what happened to his whole following, and then he died by Magefa. All the people that were in Korach's group, but like Korach, or these are talking about the people who brought their machtas to be makar of Ketores. It wasn't Korach. However, we have a brisa that takes the exact opposite opinion from the same sukkim. So there's such a question: if he was burned to death with the machtas, so he died already. So how is he min habluin? How was he standing there when he got swallowed in? So Rashi is going to tell us his body rolled and got sucked into the ground when it opened up. Let's have a quick look in Rashi. Starting from the bottom of the first column. He died by Magefa, mace. Reish Nun Hayu, there were 250 men, Levad Korach, besides Korach. Dechsiv Chamishim Masayim Machtois, Ve'ata Ve'a'aran Ish Machtosai. So it was 250 plus 1. Minabluin Uminasruf Nahaya. In the second nusach, the Bride says he was from the Blue and Srufin. Shenishrufa Nishmasai, his neshama got burnt, the Guf Kaim, the Achrach Nisgalgal Admokim HaBaluin V'nivla. And then his body rolled and he fell into the ground of there. Dechsiv Parshas Pinchas, Vativla Oisam V'Eskar Chimoyim, Korach was swallowed up. Rabbi Yochanan the Omer Loy Minabluin V'Loy Minasrufin. Rabbi Yochanan, who says that he was not in that group, Darsh Le Lahai V'Eskarach La'achrov. He darshes it differently. V'Eskarach B'Moisa Eda B'Magefa. So the V'Eskarach is not going on what the pasuk says prior to that. The pasuk is going. The V'Eskarach is going on what the pasuk says after that. V'Korach Ba'Dayu Midekasaf Midechsiv V'Toichelas Chamishim Umasayim Ish Makriv Akteris. The Korach mi makriv hakatoris. He was one of the people who brought katoris. The chsiv chamishim u'masayim machtois v'yatav ha'aron ish machtosoi inami ve'es the rabbis korachim. So there's different as far as why we know that Korach was included in that group. Omarava ma'ad chsiv shemesh yoreach amad zvula. The king, the sun stood in Zvul. Zvul Rashi says is a place up there in Shemayim somewhere and refused to go out. You know, the sun went on strike. He refused to go do its job. Rashi the land split or opened up, referring to that skarich. B'shas b'kiyas aretz shenivlu b'karka. At that point in time, shemesh v'yarech alu la'oser rikish shmoy. The sun and the moon went to a place called Zvul. The Amru LaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they went on strike. If you don't bring justice to Aaron and Moshe and stand up for them, they said, we're not going out. They only went out because Hashem shot arrows at them to do their job. Then we'll go do our job. Hashem says, oh yeah, let me teach you a lesson. And he said, you better go. And Hashem told them, we learned that every single day, the kings bow down to the sun, right? Remember, that was the Shas Charoinaf every day. And that doesn't bother you. You never came protesting, we're not doing our job because of the Avodah Zarah. That never bothered you. But the covered boss of Adam Mechizim, suddenly Aaron and Moshe are getting attacked. Suddenly you're waking up. And the Gemara concludes, Va'idna loy nafgi adamachilu. These days, the sun and moon only go out when they're forced. Why? Rashi has two pshatim. So let's see Rashi. Va'idna loy nafgi adamachilu shekach gozer le'mamakay. King Shemati. That was the gzera that they go out every day when they're forced. Lish dachrina va'idna loy nafgi me'achar shero shehikbeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu al shloimichu l'chvoidoi. Since Hashem, how could you not protest when you see people doing Avodah Zarah? So they say, you know what, you're right. And from then on, every single day, the sun and the moon refuse to go out because they're protesting the people that are doing Avodah Zarah, and Hashem forces them out. Al b'nei Adam shemishtachevim l'shemesh v'yareach. Zok the Gemara weiter. Dorish Rav, Ma'idach said, "V'imbriya yivra Hashem." Moshe said, "If HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a new creation, upatetza Adam es piyah, and the earth opens its mouth." Amar Moshe l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, "Imbriya gehenim mutav." If gehenim is already in existence, there's no need to do anything special. But imlav, if there's no gehenim yet, yivra Hashem. Hashem should create a new gehenim. What did Moshe mean? Did Moshe mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should create gehenim, something that was not in existence until now? It can't be. You know, Hashem doesn't make new creations. Elo the Lekruvipisk, Avadi, there was Gehenim already. What Moshe was saying is, I want that the doorway of Gehenim should come under the feet of these people and suck them in. Uvnei Karach loy mesu. The Karach did not die. Tana, Mishum Rabbeinu, Amru, Mokoim, Nispatzer, Lahem beGehenim. In Gehenim, the Bnei Karach were Nisbatim Eloshim B'tzura. They were protected. They were in some type of fortified place, some protective area in Gehenim where they were not burnt. V'yashvalov, they sat there. V'yamru Shira, and they said Shira. I'm not saying when I used the word burnt. They weren't swallowed up. They were in a safe place in Gehenim somewhere. Amar Rabbi Babachana, Zimna Chada, once upon a time, have a kazil neborcha. I was walking along on my merry way. Amar Liahutaya, there was this Muslim merchant, this Arab merchant, who said, "Sa, come here. I'll show you where Korach is swallowed up in the ground." Also, I went. Tray busy. There were two holes in the ground that smoke was coming out of the two holes. Shakal gavava the amr. He took a shmata, shemaya, and he soaked it in water so that it won't burn easily. He put it at the edge of a stick. And he put it over those holes where the smoke were coming out. They got singed. I mean, there was still fire there. Oh, so there was fire. They were burnt. Then he said, put your ear there. Tell me what you can hear. Moshe emes badoin. And we are fakers. We are fakers. There's a famous story with a Rav who was coerced. For some reason, he was coerced to speak very highly about someone who was a Russia. I might be messing the story up because I don't remember it in all its details. But Lemaisa, he didn't want to do this because by saying good about this person, it would allow this person to come into a position that wouldn't be good. But he made a promise that he's going to speak good about them. So what he did was he got up and said, Moshe is such an unbelievable tzaddik, but I want everyone to know that I'm a liar. So he said good about them. So there are those who learn that that's Pshat and that is Korach. It's not suddenly they had an epiphany that now they're tzaddikim, that we're badoim. We're saying Moshe was a Saras Emes and we're liars. And those they never did tshuva. That's how some people learn this comment. Amalei, so the Arab told them, Kol Talton Yoima, every 30 days, Mahadir Luhu Gehenim, Kibasa B'taych Kalachas. Every 30 days, this sound comes out because they're in a rotisserie in this Gehenim, like meat in a rotisserie. They're in a cycle, and every 30 days they line up to this opening, and you hear them saying that. What does the Mishnah go on the Viter and says that the Dor HaMidbar did not have a chelik leil haba? Dor HaMidbar ein lam chelik leil haba shenemar v'midbar hazeh yitamu. All these people will die. V'sham yamusu. So the double lashon is yitamu b'olam hazeh v'sham yamusu b'olam haba. V'amri asher nishbati v'api. We say this in Kabbalah Shabbos. Asher nishbati v'api. I'm going to swear. I swore in my anger. Im yavoyin el menuchasi, if they'll ever come to my menucha. Divei Rabbi Akiva, so that's where you see that they didn't have Olam Haba. But Rabbi Lezer, so Rabbi Akiva explains this pasuk in a harsh fashion, denying the Dor Midbar Olam Haba. But Rabbi Lezer said, no, Boin Olam Haba, Shenemar, Es V'li Chasidai, gather my Chasidim together, Karsei Barisi Allah Zavak. So Karsei Barisi is referring to the Dor HaMidbar. How do you know? Rashi says, "V'hainu Dor HaMidbar shekarsu bris shel mokaim alizvachim u'shlamim." They made a bond with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Yichsiv ha'yizbechu zvachim shlamim u'chsiv ha'yizrek alam v'yomer hinei dam ha'bris asher kars Hashem yimachem. So this is by Kabbalah Torah. They made a pact. So you see, they're referred to as Karsei Barisi, and Esul means you're going to come to me. We had this elsewhere as well. Lashon Asifa means they're going to die, but they're going to have Olam Haba. Oy b'azoi elamani mekayim asher nishbati ba'api. Zok Gemara Pugvaker. It doesn't mean I swore ba'api that they should not have Gan Eden. Rather, ba'api nishbati. I swore out of anger, meaning I have a Pesach with which to be mater my neder. V'chazrani bi, I was chayzer. As Rashi mapnei kaisi nishbati u'mischaretani. I have charat. Bei Rabbi Shua. I'm sorry, Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Omer, Loi Nemer Pasuk Zeh, the Pasuk of Asher Nishbati V'api is referring to El Keneged Doros Haboim. It's referring to the future Doros, and we'll see who that is. Es V'li Chasidai, Elu Tzadikim, Shebechol Dor V'dor, Karsei Barisi. Oh, I'm sorry. So not the Pasuk of Asher Nishbati, the Pasuk of Es V'li Chasidai. So Es V'li Tzadikim Shebechol Dor V'dor, Karsei Barisi. Elu Chananya Mishol Vazaria, as Rashi says, Shemosru Atzman Lamisa Bishvil Brisa Shalmokim. So the bris that we're talking about is the bris that Klal Yisrael has with the Rebbeinu Shalom, and because of that, they gave themselves up to die. Shemosru Atzman Techkiv Shadesh. Ali Zavach, who is that referring to? Elu Rabbi Akiva the Chaveir of Shemosru Atzman L'Shchita Al Divrei Torah. I assume that's referring to the Asar Arugi Malchus. Rabbi Shimon ben Nasir Omer, Boim Hein L'Olam Haba. They will come to Olam Haba, referring to the Dor HaMidbar, Shenemar Ufutuya Hashem, those people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeemed from Mitzrayim. So it's referring to the people that Hashem were goyal from Mitzrayim. So I guess the Levina strikes again. Ubo Tzion Barina, they're going to come to Yisrael Barina with great song. Amar Rabbi Babachad Rabbi Yochanan, Shafka Rabbi Akiva Lachasiduse. Here, Rabbi Akiva darshan the psukim harshly, to deny the Dor HaMidbar, to deny the Dor of Olam Haba, which is a departure from Rabbi Akiva's usual approach that's much more kind to these people. And the Gemara is going to illustrate later Rabbi Akiva's Chasidus. Shenemar, Haloich v'karasa b'aznei Yerushalayim leimar, Zacharti lo chesed nurayich ahavas k'luloisayich, I remember your chesed, lechtech acher b'midbar, to follow me into a midbar, be'eretz lo zerua, and you had bitochen and you just followed me in. So Rashi, Kloimer, Sherei yochel lidroy, she could have darshan, she yesh lam chelik leil mabah, diksiv halach v'karasa. Yirmiyah Navi said, tell people that I didn't forget that Mesiras Nefesh, referring to the Dor HaMidbar. So really, Rabbi Akiva could have learned the pasuk like that to say that they had Olam Haba, Ma Cherem Ba'im B'Schusa. So this pasuk is actually Yirmiyah Navi talking to Klal Yisrael, telling them that they're going to come out of Golus. Why are you going to come out of Golus? Because I remember the Dor Midbar, who had betochen in me and followed me in to the Midbar. So we could darshan. Madich Yirmiyah saying that later generations are going to come into Eretz Yisrael because of the schus of those people who had been talking to me and went into the Midbar. Hey, Matula Kolshkin, surely they will also have a good future. So that's what Rabbi Akiva could have learned, but he didn't. He rather learned that the Dor Midbar do not have Olam Haba. So you see Rabbi Akiva was departing from his Chasidus. But the Gemara is going to illustrate where you see Rabbi Akiva did have a soft stance towards people. Because right now we see Rabbi Akiva's drasha for the harsh side. Aseres Hashvatim. Now, Sanhedrin, before the Churban, Sanhedrin forced 10 Shvatim to leave. And if you remember, we had a small discussion about it earlier in the parak. And remember, one of the tanyas that was on them was that they said regarding the places that they were sent to, this is just as nice as Yerushalayim. We like it here. In one place, they said it's twice as nice as Yerushalayim, as Eretz Yisrael. And that was a big avla that they praised Eretz Yisrael. So these were these were the Aseres Hashvatim, which till today have not joined us back. The Yidden that we know that are spread throughout the entire Golus diaspora are Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Binyamin. But the other 10 Shvatim, we don't know where they are. So Aseres Hashvatim ein asidim lasser. They never are coming back. They're permanently removed from Klal Yisrael. We're comparing their Golus to Yom Hazeh. Ma Yom Hoylech V'Einem Chosher, just like a day passes and it never comes back. Afeim Hoylechim V'Einem Chosher, and they're never coming back. Divei Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Lozo Omer Kayom Hazeh, by the way, which is also a harsh interpretation. But Rabbi Lozo no Kayom Hazeh. Ma Yom Maful Meir, just like the day. In the morning, there's two pshatim in Rashi. One is in the morning it's not so bright, but in the afternoon it gets very bright. Or it could mean in the evening it gets dark, but the sun comes up again in the morning. The same way it's dim for them now, the cycle is going to turn and they are going to have it very, very good. Gewaltig. Zogt the Gemara weiter. So Rashi just says, which one we're talking about? Shehigla Sanhedrin. Shenemar, Vayinochem, B'chalach, B'vachbar, and Nard, all these different places where they sent to. Any see them lachsim and Makam Shagalu? Father in B'Gemara, the Yirmiyah Chsirim, Yirmiyah brought back people from those 10 Shvatim. Lo Shechsirin Kulon El Mitzosam Hichsir. So when the Navi relates that Yirmiyah brought them back, because that's what he says, Achadi Lo Chesed Nurayich, it doesn't mean he brought them all back. He brought some of them back. Since they left this Torah by the first place of Mikdash, they did a virus, they're thrown into goals and they're permanently rejected from Klal Yisrael. Gewaltig. Rashi says, "Vayashlichem mashma sheyikulam goyim b'makom echad l'eretz acheres." They all went to one land. Unlike Yehuda and Binyamin that were scattered all around the world, the Aseres Hashvatim were in one place. At least they started off in one place. Finally, Aseres Hashvatim shehiglim sancherim v'yishivim b'makom echad. Kidarminan sharlichem l'madin is Africa. It's somewhere in Africa. About Beis Hashvatim l'golu l'makom echad el nispazu b'chol ha'rotzos. We're the diaspora. We're all over the place. We are going to be gathered. We're going to be brought back to Eretz Yisrael, but not necessarily to 10 Shvatim. But that is a machlokes between Akiva and Abelazar. Tanu Rabbanan, Aseres Hashvatim ein lam chelik leil haba. Shenema vayitchem Hashem me'al admosam. Hashem pushed them off from the ground. Ba'af uvechema uveketz of Gadol with a great anger. Vayitchem Hashem me'al admosam v'darshan is boilam hazeh. Vayashlichem al eretz acheres v'darshan is loilam haba. Divei Rabbi Akiva. But Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda is kvar aku omer. He darshans differently. Rabbi Shimon, he says as follows: Imasayim kayom hazeh. If their ma'asim are kayom hazeh, then einam chayzer. But them lav, if they do tshuva, chayzer avade, they will be chayzer. Now it's a little bit confusing what this means. They're not included in the future because we know there's so many different stages. There's Yom Mashiach, there's Al Mabah, and we don't even know what exactly these things are. So Rashi makes a comment here. They're those who learn Aseres Hashvatim ein lam chelik l'olam haba hanu l'moshe Mashiach shelo yikable Mashiach in Shar Golios. So it's referring to Moshe Mashiach again. There's different periods that we don't really have clarity on what they were all. So what was their Avera? Is that they spoke ill of Eretz Yisrael, like we learned earlier. When they got to the city of Sais, they said this is just as good as Eretz Yisrael. That was a very big Avera. You guys, what's the big deal? The Meraglim who spoke ill of Eretz Yisrael also lost their chilek. Okay, gewaltig. So Reb Shimon Omer, my kayom mezeh, lo melach, im same kayom mezeh, then lo yehei lo chilek lo naba. But v'im lav, if shoyach shu b'tshuva, yach through gam heim migolus, v'yesh lem chilek lo naba. So they could do tshuva, and avada they will be taken back into Klal Yisrael. Zok Gemara, I don't know what they know. You're assuming they don't know. How do you know they don't know? Wherever they are, they might have a tradition. You mean why? What, I mean today with communications, why haven't they been discovered? So you're saying they must have been lost amongst the goyim. Zok Gemara, Rabbi Omer, boyim heim lo'olam haba. They will come to olam haba. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, v'haya bayamahu yitaka b'shofar gadol uvo ha'ovdim be'eretz Asher v'anidochem be'eretz Mitzrayim. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chana, Amar Yochanan, Shavka Rabbi Akiva l'chasidus. Once again, Rabbi Akiva, who darshan this pasuk harshly, that they're not going to come back, he abandoned his normal stance of kindness. Shenemar halach v'karasa is advar ma'ela. Tzafayna, go announce this in the north. V'yamarta shuva meshuva Yisrael. Come back, the people of Klal Yisrael who were doing averis. Num Hashem. I'm not going to turn my face away for you. Because I'm a chassid. I won't hold this grudge forever. Okay. So once again, Rabbi Akiva could have darshaned that Hashem's going to take these people back, but he didn't. So he departed from his normal opinion, which would be more soft and kind. And let's have a quick look at Rashi. Eretz Asher, Elu Yud HaShvatim. These are the 10 Shvatim. V'nidachem be'eretz Mitzrayim, Elu Dar HaMidbar. V'chein loshen l'sefta v'lishamati hoid. So Rashi says the Gemara darshan that these psukim are referring to the Dar HaMidbar and the Aseret HaShvatim, that they're both going to come back. And this is what Rabbi Akiva abandoned, and he darshaned it harshly. Shuva meshuva, shekol Yisrael asidin lachser. Everybody is eventually going to do tshuva, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take everybody back. Okay, gewaltig. So now the Gemara says that wasn't the typical stance of Rabbi Akiva. He normally darshan things in a more favorable fashion. Where do you see that? Zok to Gemara, my chasiduse, where you see the Rabbi Akiva's stance was to learn things less harsh. The Tanya, kitane b'nei Risha Yisrael. What about if these Rishoyim who don't have a chelik l'olam haba? What about their young innocent children? Ein boyin l'olam haba. They don't get olam haba. Shenemar kihine ayoyim ba. The day is coming. Boyer kataner, burning like an oven. Vayikol zaydim v'chol oisei risha. All of the rest will be like hash, will be like straw. V'lahat oisam, and they'll be burnt up. Hayoyim haba in the coming days. Amar Hashem tzavokos. Asher lo yazov lahem. We will not abandon them. Every single one will be destroyed. Sharish v'anof. They won't, and not a single a root or a branch will be left over from them. So we dash in sharish b'olam hazeh v'anof l'olam haba. That was Divrei Rabbi Gamliel. But Rabbi Akiva Omer boim heim l'olam haba. Here's where Rabbi Akiva dashed it more kind, more soft towards the children of the Over Avera. Shenemar shomer pesayim Hashem. Hashem watches the pesayim. Shekein karen b'kracha ayam liyinuka pasya. So this is one place where Akiva learns that the children will be spared, and there's another pasuk that he brings. V'omer. This was part of the nevuah that was told to Belshazzar. Gudu ilana, cut the tree down, v'chavloy, and destroy it. Bram ikar sharshoyi, but its roots, ba'ar shavuku, don't uproot it. Let it rejuvenate itself. Meaning, referring to the children that will end up coming back. Velamani mekayim lo yazav lehem shorish v'anof. So what's pshat? Lo yazav lehem shorish v'anof. It means shelo yiniach lehem loy mitzvah v'loy sheyuri mitzvah. It's not. We don't darshan it like we darshaned it earlier. Shorish b'olam hazeh v'anof l'olam haba even a descendant will not have Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. They'll be totally wiped out. No, don't darshan it that way. Darshan it that the Rishonim themselves, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay them back for every mitzvah or good deed by Olam Hazeh, so that by Olam Haba they'll be totally uprooted. Davar Acher, Shoyres is Zun Neshama, Van of Zaguf. Again, it's another way to learn it where the pasuk is not saying that the children will be uprooted. Avakatani b'nei Rishei Oivdei Kachavim. So we've already illustrated where Rabbi Akiva dashes things in a more soft fashion, because he learned that the young children of the Rishei B'nai Yisrael do not lose Olam Haba, while we had another Tana who learned, in fact, like Rabbi Gamliel learned, that they don't have Olam Haba. Even the children get uprooted. However, Ketani b'Rishei Oivdei Kachavim, but the children of Goyim, Divrei HaKol Ein Voim Olam Haba. They for sure do not get Olam Haba. Rabbi Gamliel Navkalei, so they're going to be totally wiped out. Let's have a quick look at Rashi. Ketani b'nei Rishei Yisrael. Rishei Yisrael Atzman, Pshita de'ein lahem chelek l'olam haba. Kedarim perk basha d'ksubas. Refam ba yikumu misham arapa atzman de'v'toyer. They don't have olam haba. Avol bonim shalahem ketanim v'lo echatu. They're innocent children. There's a machlokes if they're going to be uprooted. Shorish one of elabonim ketanim shalahem. Shorish belamazeh shemushin nefelim. They'll die as little children. One of elabosh alabisha v'seim hayirushoyim heim lo echatu. That's what you might think. The Rishah says you might think that kamash malam that they won't have olam haba, because you could make a good argument. What did they do wrong? Iker shershayu bar shavuku elu abadim ketanim. The nevuah that you should leave the roots of the tree there, that's referring to the bottom katanim. Even though their fathers have no chelek, they have a future. Meaning Shem will pay these people back for their mitzvahs, so they won't have any olam haba. Zu neshama, why is neshama referred to as the root? Shema medis is a guf, because it holds up the guf. Kishoyer shema mitoilam. Avaktani b'nei Rishei of the kachavim, dav kama rishi. Only the bad guy. The chasido of the kachavim pligi ba. Remember, we had a machlokes if the chasido u'masoilam get olam haba. Remember, the Gemara said that from the Mishnah where it says that Bilam doesn't get, vice the good goyim would get olam haba. Vikal mandam are hein atzman boyin. There is a mandam who holds that goyim do come. Vikal mandam ein boyin, they don't come to olam haba. Kedamar and Yeshuva Rishon will show that we dash in this pasuk. Kol goyim shcheche Elohim mikan she'ein lam chelek, and Rabbi Yeshua said no. V'chinamer b'chol goyim v'loinamer ela kol goyim shcheche lim. So Rabbi Yeshua learns only bad goyim don't go to olam haba, but good goyim do. The Tanna Kama held no go to olam haba. Okay, gewaltig. That the children of goyim don't come to olam haba. Claimer l'tana de Braisa. Everyone agrees with that. Even if you don't learn it up from the pasuk of Sharish Vanaf, because you could dash it for other things, this pasuk everybody would agree tells you that they don't have a chelek l'olam haba. Itmar. At what age is a child entitled to olam haba? As soon as he's born, maybe when he's able to do mitzvahs. We say kol yisrael yesh l'hem chelek l'olam haba. At what age is it considered someone who's going to get out of a The moment a baby is born, the baby already has a chelik in the only when the child can speak. Until the child can speak, if the baby dies, it doesn't go to olam haba. Only if the baby can speak. They'll come and say tzedakah, meaning they'll come to olam haba. Anyone who's born, only if someone could speak, then he's going to come to Hashem and he's going to have Itmar. Ravi knows, but as soon as the child is conceived, when the child is only a product of meiosis, it's a fertilized egg, that already is a child that has olam haba. Only once the child has a bris. Even though I'm an ani, but I'm considered a person. Rashi says, even though I'm an ani, I don't have any mitzvahs yet. Yosy chashuva, my body is choshev. Yosy chashuva gviya, I'm considered a person. You could say on me, vayikva v'yesaf is a nusach that's used when Yaakov Avinu died. In other words, I'm a real person at this point. When? Kloimar, what does it mean? Vayikva v'yesaf, shezoichani la'asad lavoi, I will be zoicha to Olam Haba, just like tzaddikim shenem ram gviya, just like when the Torah expresses a lashon of a tzaddik dying, you use a lashon vayikva v'yesaf, I'm in that category. From what point am I in that category? At the time where I'm carrying your fear, afuna miskalgelas, and so I carry your fear, and your pachad rolled on me like a wagon wheel. Your pachad is resting upon me. That's what mila creates. In his basar, the milah is the container with which we carry the fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Zok to Gemara, it says, Ani ani v'geveya, minoyer nasasi emecha afuna. Tana mishum amer mishash v'yomer amen. At the point where the child could say amen. Where do you see that that's what triggers the Olam Haba? Because it says, Pischu sharim v'yavoy gai tzadik shomer emunim. Al trikri shomer emunim ela shomer amen. So shomer emunim could be shomer amen. Once the child could say amen, that's when the child has a chelik Olam Haba. My amen. What does the word amen mean? It's three letters. What do they mean? Amabchanino, it means keil melech ne'eman. The Rashi is my amen. Kisha'ayno kal baruch haba amen. Heich mash makabel shir shemayim. How is amen being makabel your shemayim? Keil melech ne'eman with the troikin shemayim all about Kadosh Baruch Hu, that he's accepting upon himself his trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll obviously mamshich tomorrow. Kufiyat Gimel is the end. So Kufiyat Aleph is Monday, Kufiyat Beis is Tuesday, Kufiyat Gimel is Wednesday. On Wednesday we're going to make a siyum. Okay.